Back to Uncommon Analysis. It's your first time here? Thanks for stopping by. We're glad you did. Please click that like, subscribe, share, tell your friends and neighbors about us, join the conversation. And for our regular listeners, welcome back. We're always happy to see you again. So today I want to take a few minutes to talk about the continuing escalation, not escalation, the continuing response of the Trump administration to China's unfair practices in trade and other things. I did a video maybe a week or two ago regarding how they were doing way more than just tariffs. We talked about them, how they were talking about getting rid of the de minimis exemption for all Chinese goods and what that would mean and other things. This article is more to do with the freight and shipping industry, particularly freight over shipping and Chinese behaviors in that area and a response to it. In 2024, the government launched an investigation into Chinese behaviors in the shipbuilding and the shipping industry. That report came down on the 22nd, which I believe is the day after Trump was sworn in. And it basically confirmed that the Chinese had indeed been engaging in improper and illegal practices. They've been pushing unfair advantages to dominate shipping and shipbuilding. In fact, this is what the report had to say. For nearly 3 decades, China has targeted the maritime, logistics, and shipbuilding sectors for dominance and has employed increasingly aggressive and specific targets in pursuing dominance of maritime, logistics, and shipbuilding sectors. China has largely achieved its dominance goals, severely disadvantaging U.S. companies, workers, and the U.S. economy, generally through lessened competition and commercial opportunities through the creation of economic security risks from dependencies and vulnerabilities. Basically, they're doing stuff they shouldn't do. Right? They're doing stuff that's illegal or improper. The report goes into how exactly he went about doing it, right, and how it was a threat to national security as well as weakening competition. And in 1999, for example, they only had 5% of the shipbuilding market. It's now more than 50% in 2023, and it's bought out fleets all over the world from to over 19%. So it's ownership of the commercial world fleet. Now has almost 20% of it as of the beginning of last year. It also controls 95% of the global shipping container production and 86% of the world's supply of intermodal chassis, which are those things that move on rail and rail as well as trucks and boats. The target was enabled to government policies, unfair depressed costs, and provide advantages. So with this basically allows now the U.S. to respond. We have found they indeed violated behaviors. They've done things that are legal and allows the United States to respond. Well, how did Trump respond? Well, Trump responds pretty seriously. This is about a month later, February, this comes out. They're talking about they proposed. I shouldn't even talk about it. They've actually proposed, and understand this is pretty major, that ships constructed in China would face fees up to $1.5 million per U.S. port call. So if you're a shipping company and you want to dock a Chinese-built ship in the United States ports, you're going to be hit with up to a $1.5 million fee. And not only that, that's a pretty significant. That makes any ship built in China subject to that. But here's the more important part of the thing. This is serious. They're going to set any potential. If you're using a Chinese-built ship in your fleet at all, even if the ship you come to the United States with is not built in China, but you have one registered to your fleet, they could be charged up to $500,000 to dock at the U.S. ports, on top of the other fees that are normally charged. So that's significant, guys. That's huge. That is a very, very big hit. Just docking a Chinese-built ship in the United States could cost you up to $1.5 million. And even if you don't have even the ship you're docking isn't Chinese, you even have one in your fleet, we could charge you up to up to $500,000 to dock any of your ships in your fleet in a U.S. port. So as you can see, the Trump administration is certainly taking this seriously. They are certainly putting America first. This is significant. Now, this has finally made the mainstream news. I think in the last few days, it's finally started to hit the mainstream, like just general news. So I've seen this on Reuters now and some other feeds now in the last couple of days. But this has been brewing for a while. The report came out on the 21st of January. This article about what they were suggesting to do came out on the 25th, or proposing to do on the 25th, 24th, 25th, in that time frame. It is now March what? March 10th. So it's been about 2 weeks. Not quite 2 weeks, because I think it's 2 or 3 days ago that Reuters and others finally started picking up on the story. You would have known this in certain, obviously the financial news covered this to a certain extent. Obviously the industry-related news, if you're in freight and logistics, this has been out there and known now for at least several months. So this is just one more step that proves that the current administration is a totally different beast than the previous one. Will this impact things? Absolutely, right? Most likely what you're going to see is ports are going to relocate. Ships are going to start docking in Canadian or Mexican ports and then try to shift their goods in the United States over rail or something intermodal, right? Which is usually mail. Get off the generally rail, right? And for some places that's not bad. In the East Coast, the East Coast ports of Canada are pretty well connected. So I don't think you're going to see a huge difference. They'll be able to handle load. But there are other parts, like in the West Coast, where the western ports of Canada and Mexican ports just are not going to be able to move that freight into the United States on rail at the same levels they could if the ports came directly to the U.S. So this will be interesting to see what happens. We don't really have a big shipbuilding industry in the United States today. Other countries, though, in the West do. This hopefully will spawn or increase shipbuilding for those individuals, and maybe even get some more U.S. ship, container ships built. I don't know. But this is serious, guys. This is big. So when you hear people talk about, how Trump is behaving, it's way more than tariffs. It's a much bigger approach. The Trump administration certainly has a totally different worldview. They are certainly putting America first. There is little to no doubt about that in all of their policies. Now, don't get me wrong. Obviously, these fees have to be paid by someone if they happen, so it's going to be rolled to consumers on some of these things. But long term, these are certainly going to be beneficial for the United States and the rest of the world. And I suspect you're going to see more of this happening, just like we are dealing with, fights with Canada right now and Mexico, and Trump is talking about reciprocal tariffs and other things. It's a different world, and it is far bigger than just tariffs. So just keep that in mind whenever you hear the media go and just go, or the left go crazy about some tariff or this, that. There's a lot more going on. It's a big, big whole ball of things that are going to keep going on in this whole world regarding the United States and our approach to how we're being treated economically by our trade partners across the globe. All right, well, that's all I've got for today, guys. I hope you have a great one. And with that, I am out.